You are reminded that you have a duty to avoid all conflicts of interest, potential conflicts of interest, and appearances of conflicts of interest. Do any of you know of or anticipate any conflict of interest, potential conflict of interest, or appearance of conflict of interest regarding the matters on the agenda for today's meeting?
No.
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 Let the minutes reflect that no conflicts were reported. I'd like to welcome Mr. David King as our new board member appointed by the governor to complete Ron Edgerton's term. Welcome, David.
Thank you, sir.
He will be formally sworn in at our April meeting, and those of you who wish to do so, we will be having an in-person meeting at our usual place, I believe, and we welcome all who want to come to attend. All right, Carolyn, roll call.
Yes, sir. Mr. Avery, Ms. Banks, Mr. Brigman, Mr. Brummett,
Here.
Mr. Carvier, Mr. Kern,
Here.
Kyles. Is some mic on? Well, I see her. Ms. Lewis,
Here.
Dr. Metcalf,
Here.
Dr. Parham,
Here.
Mr. Queen,
Here.
Ms. Ramsey. Here. And welcome to Mr. King.
Thank you.
We do have a quorum.
Carolyn, did you get down here?
Your mic isn't working, but yes, I did call your name. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, moving along to our first item on the agenda. The consent agenda. The consent agenda was sent out with the board packet. I hope everybody has had a chance to look at the consent agenda. Are there any questions concerning the consent agenda that anybody feels needs to be brought forward to the action item as an action item? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Motion to adopt.
Yes.
Second,
Second.
it's been moved and seconded that we adopt the consent agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, moving right along into agenda item number 2, resolution and actions items. Action items are programs offered at Craggy and Swannanoa Correctional Centers. Dr. Stewart was going to present that. Is she here?
I am. Good afternoon, everyone. Sometime back last year, you may recall that you were informed that we had applied to participate in a second chance Pell program at some of our local correctional agencies. And this is a nationwide program that allows Pell Grants to be used by prisoners to pursue education while they are still locked up. And I'm happy to say that we became the only college in North Carolina to receive the second chance Pell program. And now we need approval to actually start offering the coursework at these 3 locations. So the resolution in your packet says that AB Tech was selected as the only college in North Carolina to participate in the Department of Education Second Chance Pell Experimental Sites Project. Of course, unfortunately, due to COVID, the beginning of this project was delayed from fall of 2020 to fall of 2021. As part of the application process, the college worked with the North Carolina Department of Public Safety and Craggy and Swannanoa Correctional Centers to identify programs for students that could lead to meaningful employment. The 3 programs are, for Craggy, the Electrical Systems Technology degree, and for Swannanoa, Hospitality Management and Human Services Technology. The college currently offers these programs at our main campus. However, the North Carolina Community College system requires a separate application for each program at each correctional location. So we are requesting that the Board of Trustees approve the college's application for the above programs to be offered at Craggy and Swananoa Correction Centers effective March 1st, 2021.
Are there any questions for Dr. Stewart? And I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I would make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the programs offered at Craggy and Swananoa Correctional Center. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It's passed.
I think I need to do a verbal,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Brummett,
Aye.
Mr. Kern,
Yes.
Ms. Kyles,
Aye.
Ms. Lewis,
Aye.
Dr.
Yes.
Metcalf,
Aye.
Dr. Parham,
Aye.
Mr. Queen,
Aye.
and Ms. Ramsey. The motion passes.
Thank you very much. And I would like to give just a moment of recognition to Dr. Gene Laughlin, the Associate Vice President of Instructional Services, for his work on this very important program. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Item B, authorization to remove overdue student accounts. Dr. Wilmot.
Yes, I'm sharing my screen at this point, and I'm moving to page 8 in your packet. And annually, we are required to review our accounts receivable from students, and those that have reached a sufficient age are required to be turned over to the North Carolina Department of Revenue for a minimum of a year to be collected according to set debt off collection. And in that process, we remove the student accounts from our books. However, they are left. There is an indicator on their student account that they still owe the money and whatnot. So we don't lose track of the fact that the money is removed from their account. And this year, we're asking that we remove $94,612 of 3-year-old student accounts. And something that I think is important to know is that we've made great progress over the last 5 or 6 years in terms of reducing both the amount that we have to turn over, and then also on the amount that gets turned back, returned to us through the Department of Revenue. And so I think our people in accounts receivable deserve some recognition for that. But this chart shows that. So our action item today is whether or not you will approve us the removal from our books of those student accounts receivable in arrears by more than 3 years, not to exceed $94,612, effective March the 1st, 2021.
Are there any questions for Dr. Wilmot? Hearing no questions, I'll entertain a motion to adopt.
Motion to approve. This Joe.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All right, Carolyn, if you'll call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Brummett,
Yes.
Mr. Kern,
Yes.
Ms. Kyles,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Dr. Metcalf,
Yes.
Dr. Parham,
Yes.
Mr. Queen,
Yes.
and Ms. Ramsey. We do have a quorum and an approval. Motion is approved.
Thank you. Moving to consent agenda item number 3, the president's report. Dr. Gossett.
Mr. Chairman,
No, we forgot the calendar.
I believe we have the calendar
Oh,
issue.
yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Action item number C, Dr. Wilmot again.
All right. Let me share my screen again, just for reference here. Okay, as in the course of balancing this year's budget last year, we knew that we were on a downturn in terms of our budgeted FTE from the state over about a 4 or 5 year period. And so we had a fairly large deficit to contend with. And one of the measures that we decided to implement with your approval was the implementation of a 5 or 6 day of furloughs in which employees would not be paid, but and also they did not work on those days. And so the bulk of those have been already used or put into place. And the bulk of them were over the Christmas break, which the positive side to that was that we were able to increase our break to a full two-week period. But the underside of that is that people didn't get paid for a couple of those days. We have 2 more that are coming up at the end of March and the start of April. And as we've done our mid-year review, which we do annually with the state budget, obviously, though our revenues are down, our expenses are down as well. And we now feel comfortable in recommending that we reverse our decision for a full 6 days of furlough and that we reinstate these 2 remaining days. It's an impact on the state budget of about $210,000, but it also impacts the Buncombe County and the Madison County budget as well, but to a far less degree. But nonetheless, we feel very comfortable that we will have sufficient surplus coming into the fiscal year in order to restore these days and give a boost of morale to our employees after 2+ years of no pay increases at all. And this effectively was a pay decrease for this year. So our action item is that we would ask that you to approve the college calendar, which is presented on page 10 with the referenced furlough dates that would be reinstated. That's all. Any questions?
I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution action item number C.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Carolyn, if you'll call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Brummett,
Yes.
Mr. Kern,
Yes.
Ms. Kiles,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Dr. Metcalf,
Yes.
Dr. Parham,
Yes.
Mr. Queen,
Yes.
and Ms. Ramsey. Motion approved. I need a cocktail.
Thank you. Now we will move on to the president's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate being here. I've gotten in the habit of telling you that I am blessed to be here, and that continues. I appreciate your support. Before I get into my personal report, we do want to talk with you very briefly about our Inca campus. We had, as you know, some studies going on most of last year. Well, I don't remember when it started, before I got here, I believe. We finally got a report for the building at Inca. Dirk is going to walk us through the recommendations of that report. So Dirk, if you wouldn't mind, please.
All right, I put in your document, there's a probably 60-page full presentation, PowerPoint presentation that was put on by our consultants. And it's quite comprehensive, and but it's not something that I want to go through today. So we have come up with a very quick summary of the conclusions that we would like for you to see. And obviously we encourage you to go and look at the full report because there's a lot to chew on there. In the way of context, obviously some of you newer members may not know that our Inca campus is a former BASF facility where it was donated to us by BASF. Obviously, it originally was Inca, American Inca. And that facility was donated to us in the 2001 time frame. And it's 43 or so acres out there. And it's got three really large buildings on it. And in this little picture here, you can see the buildings. The one that's in the center is called the Technology Commercialization Center. And it is the one that is presently occupied, albeit only about perhaps 50 to 60%. And the other buildings on the right have been vacated at the directive of Buncombe County when there was less than a full support for trying to facilitate to occupy and renovate that facility. And so we decided to vacate it right around 2015. It's sitting vacant at this time. The Technology Center, as most of you already know, houses our small business center, incubator, as well as several commercial clients. Blue Ridge Food Ventures occupies a large amount of the space, and it also houses our distillery, fermentation, and brewing facilities for academic instruction. And so anyway, the context that I'm trying to set here is that this facility has sat there not really fully utilized for a long time. A lot of it is not occupiable. However, it has extensive repair and replacement needs, starting first off with the roof. It's got actually 20 some roofs on it, and a lot of those roofs are leaking and raining down on our occupants, many of whom are paying for their space. And so it's really quite an embarrassment. It's been that way for many, many years. And but there's been a lack of consensus about whether or not to put money into the facility. And so a couple of years ago, when we straightened out the situation with Article 46 quarter-cent sales tax, we were very careful to make sure that we could ask for money for Inca, starting with the roof, which seemed to be the most pressing issue, get it covered up and then deal with the interior later on. But the estimated or the projected cost at that time was about $1.7 million. And when we got to the point where we actually wanted to commit those funds to the roofs, people were reluctant to do that, not knowing what the history or the future, of the facility and of the larger campus would be. And so part of the funds that we got approved through Article 46, in addition to the roof, was for a full facilities condition assessment, very similar to what had already been funded out of those Article 46 funds for this campus, and which is now providing over $3 million a year in repair and replacements over a 10-year period. So we would envision that we want the same kind of commitment and an understanding about the challenges out there at that building. On the other side, if in fact it was such an expensive proposition, then we may be more likely to think about newer facilities to replace the ones we have, as well as to allow for growth at that campus or somewhere else. So with all that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and get into this. Let's see here. Our consultants have been working since really last spring. They did we pulled together stakeholders, and then we did a large survey of the stakeholders, as well as students, former and current students, about their perceptions about the Inca campus and the availability or the possibility of attending classes there, and just looking at the prospects, how to better utilize the facility. And this was going on simultaneous to a full room by room conditions assessment conducted by engineers, qualified engineers, and then ultimately with cost estimates provided by Van Oy. So what we see here, the first thing I want to point to here is the amount of the $24.8 million. This is the amount of taking the facility and moving it beyond where it is right now. We have an existing space that is being occupied, but there's about an additional 38,000 square feet that can be occupied. And so, yes.
I'm sorry, did you want to change your screen? We're still looking at the cover.
Oh yeah, I guess so. I guess you're not coming with me, are you? Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. I have no way of knowing that. Can you see this in this?
Yeah.
Okay. good.
Yeah, we're on slide 2 with you.
All right, good. See if I can hide this. There it is. Okay. So the $24.8 million is the cost of replacing the roof. We'll look at this on the next slide. Really might be easier to look at it here. Let's see. Oops, too far. The $24.8 million is what it would take to, this is not including soft costs, which would include all the design costs and all the FF&E, because we figured that would have to go into either a new facility or renovating this existing facility and expanding the square footage. But the components of the costs that were estimated for this would include about $2.87 million for our demolition and shell reconstruction. They estimated that the roof replacement and the equipment, there's vast amounts of equipment, both on the roofs and in the interior, that were abandoned in place by BASF. And there's probably some salvage value to a lot of that, but a lot of it's probably just junk that needs to be thrown away. So they figured that the total cost of dealing with all that while they have the roofs open, they can bring a crane in, reach down and pull all this equipment out as best we can and get it out of the way. So $2 million, which is more than what we budgeted for 2 years ago. It was 1.7, but that 1.7, of course, had already been previously approved by the Board of Trustees and the commissioners using Article 46. Then another $2 million in siding and exterior upgrades. That would include tearing down some of the facades that are up there. Most of the facade is in pretty good shape, but some of the parapets are in bad shape and need retouching up. And then also replacing all of the windows in order to improve the efficiency of the building, within the building. Then you can see some of these other large components, treatments, coverings or floors and whatnot, life safety upgrades, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical work. It is based on a very strange European standard for voltage. I think it's 560 volts. A lot of that would have to be replaced. And so that's the largest single component of the estimated costs. There need to be some site work out there, some permitting, and then the design, insurance, and all that, about $5.2 million. So this is the total of the hard costs related to renovating the existing facility and increasing the square footage so that we could better utilize or utilize some of the existing facility that's unoccupiable. In addition to that cost, there would be fitting the shell, the areas, the $38,000 that I'm referring to, that would be about $3.5 million. So the new construction cost was figured out to be at $317 per square foot, which will be important in a minute here. The key assumptions is that there's no inflation built into this, which is a little scary, obviously, on $25 million, $28 million. The price inflation has generally been in the neighborhood of 5 to 10% over the last couple of years. So we wouldn't want to wait too long to make some commitments. There are soft costs, as I mentioned, that are additional to this, but that would be true if we were going into a new building or renovating this existing one. As far as the existing infrastructure that's in there, the occupied areas, by and large, are in pretty good shape. They could use some touch up and new fresh paint and coverings, but that's not really included as part of this. That's generally considered to be an ongoing college operating cost, maintenance cost. And so the interior improvements are focusing on the unoccupied areas. And if you do go to the large presentation in your packet, you'll see a floor plan showing those areas that could be readily improved to where they could be occupiable. And that's what a lot of this is about. And then the thing is that a lot of this could be done as phased construction as opposed to one-time things. And it probably would need to be because we have occupants in the building who we would have to work around as we renovated the facilities. So we reviewed the components of the largest costs here. The next page shows an overview of options, of 4 options that we looked at. Of course, the one you just looked at is option 1, which would be a renovated an expansion of the existing square footage in the building. And then if we were to go to new construction for 100, which would generate 138,000 square feet, which is what we're talking about here, it would be, the cost of that would be $44 million. And so from a standpoint of comparison, those two, obviously renovating the existing facility is the most desirable from a cost standpoint. And that is, kind of the conclusion that we wanted to be able to draw from this. Should we move forward even with the first step, the first step being put a new roof on, we see that if we're assuming that we're going to move forward with you fully utilizing the facility as best as possible, it would be desirable to renovate the building rather than move forward with a new facility. Obviously, new construction assumes no land acquisition costs. It is possible that we could have a new construction, a new facility, 138,000 on the existing land out there that we own. So that has not been factored in as a cost. And as we said, $138,000 square footage for new construction based on existing needs, plus a mix of new educational, leasable, and common space in the building. The other two options that we looked at is our existing space. Right now, we're using about 90,000 square feet. So assuming that 100,000 square foot, we build a new facility at $317 per square foot. That would be $31.7 million. Again, approximately $8 million more than what we would budget, $7 million more than when we budget with a renovation for an expanded facility. And the option 4, we're taking the total cost of a renovated facility and dividing it by the $370 assumed per square foot of new construction costs. And that would generate enough facility for $90,000, 90,000 square feet, excuse me, which is about what we're already using there. So again, it's a question of a new building versus an existing building. Option 3 does not include raising the existing building. So obviously there's nothing in here for tearing down either the Technology Commercialization Center or the other Haines Tower buildings that are there. That's something that'll have to be dealt with another day, for another day. And then option 4, calculations work in reverse just to determine how big of a building we could build for the same cost. Again, there would be no room for growth in this assumption. No capacity for expanding programming, and new construction assumes no land acquisition costs again. All right. So we get down to our last slide. Option 1 being the best value we feel our consultants recommend, and we feel based on our observations. It would elevate the image and the presence of the facility to reflect a superior quality of our programming that's already there. It supports the economic development objectives with opportunities for expansion in lab space, practical arts, and workforce development. It enables opportunities to capture added revenue through the expansion of academic offering in new facilities. And a renovation concept would allow for a phased strategy and funding over time for implementation of building improvements. And so, the big question coming out of this is, how are we going to pay for this, And our original assumption was that we would try to use Article 46 over time, using the excess funds that are there for the purposes of phasing a construction. However, as we've made commitments in the last year or less than a year to Project Ranger for new facilities out there, there's a little bit less on the table for the purposes of building a new facility, but there's still excess. And what I've done is I've included this last slide, which I know is very hard to read, but it is in your packet, the last page of the presentation. What this is the forecast revenue and expenses for Article 46 that have been compiled by the Buncombe County folks. And it includes in blue in the middle the projects that have been committed to already, which already includes the new roof for $1.7 million. And so with all this in place already, you can see revenues have actually been better than projected initially by Buncombe County for Article 46. So the economy has continued to, the local economy has continued to be good to us from a standpoint of tourism and people spending money on the property tax. So we've actually done a little bit better on that side. And then on the expense side, you can see that we continue to maintain the expectations related to existing debt, as well as the money that is going into our annual expense for maintaining and repairing the facilities on the main campus. And you can see that we continue to maintain a reserve of $2 million, as well as additional funds that are in hand, very conservatively estimated at 4% over time. So I guess that is about all of my presentation. Where I'm trying to get you folks is to understand that we feel that based on these studies, that we are in a good position to remain at INCA, and that we would like to continue to utilize and expand our utilization of the Technology Commercialization Center, with the idea that we would go into a phased project over time as monies or funds are available. That would include the first step being replace the darn roofs. And I feel like once we get the cap on the building, then we can look at internally more extensively and phase either construction financed by Article 46 as it does better, hopefully better than worse, or potentially there's discussion about a new Connect NC or NC bond project. And so we have taken the liberty of putting this project as one that might be funded by new bond revenues that would come through the state, assuming that either the General Assembly or the taxpayers agree. So that's all my summary. Are there any questions? Not hearing. Yes, Judy.
I was wondering about what do you think the impact of the new Amazon buildings will be for this location?
Well, I haven't thought much about that. Perhaps Deborah has.
Ms. Lewis.
Go ahead, John.
Go ahead, Deborah.
I was just asking, are you talking about the Amazons that's out there by the airport?
No, the one that's going to be built is a warehouse, it's my understanding, right there next door to this facility.
Across the creek.
Right.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, we have not considered that. What we are doing now is looking at the potential based on the space that they would renovate, what additional classes that we could put over there, both in the curriculum side and in the Con Ed side, and what existing programs we could actually expand. So we were not looking at them as an impact on how we would use this facility. In addition, we have some opportunities to work with the high school out there at INCA for some of the manufacturing. We've moved that stuff over to our facility here on the main campus, but we've had some inquiries into whether or not we could work to offer the manufacturing courses for the high school out there at that INCA location. But we can't do that until we can fix the roof and put some of the equipment back.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think Judy's point is well taken, though, in that there is going to be increasingly amount of development in that area, and more and more people focused on traveling in and out of there. And so the convenience of the INCA campus for them as an educational destination is very clear.
And especially if they put it on the bus line.
Yes.
That would be huge for us. That's been a real disadvantage for a lot of programs if they are if they attract the kind of students who need that as transportation. So they may be actually able to do what we've been unable to do, get a bus line out there.
Any other questions?
There's one comment I would like to make.
Yes, Max.
Having been involved with the INCA campus for many years, from about 2003 up till 2008, about 5 years I was out there. And during that time, we were, quite honestly, we had a booming kind of activity going on there. We had over, I'm thinking 35, 40 small business folk incubating. And we had what we call corporate partners, in that we had Western Carolina University out there with their nursing program. We had RISA there, who was occupying one of the floors in the corporate building, doing training for teachers. We had, working through the congressman's office, there were some projects there that we were housing in the tower. And I say all that simply to say this, that I think in addition to, when we're looking at the renovation and what we're going to be doing there, I think we really need to look at the business model of what we're trying to achieve. community colleges were created not really to be a money maker, if you will. The FTE formula is, tough to be making profit. But if we were able to create a model whereby we could get back into, I don't know, maybe some of these relationships with larger entities, corporate entities, that may help fuel the coffers and help move us along. The only other thing I'd like to say is, in reviewing the work done by the architect and everyone that was involved in this report, I will assure you, it was very thorough. The things that they uncovered and reported were things that we were battling for a long, long time out there. The initial emphasis when the property was gifted to AV Tech was to get a small business center up and running. Now, most of the money that was earmarked was to go in and renovate cosmetically the interior of those buildings and get them occupiable. And that's where it went. There was very, very little that was put forth toward the mechanical, heating, air conditioning, those type things. And it has been that way ever since we've acquired it. The electrical, as mentioned, is one thing that is problematic. But I think that the building itself is very sound. It is built well as far as the structure itself, but it is dated. And I would think, Dr. Gossett, that possibly, if it's pleasure of this board, some people have never probably even set foot on that campus. And I'm sure they've not been in most of the areas of those buildings. It might be beneficial, if please the board, to set up a visit out there so people can really get their arms around, their heads around what's being talked about. 138,000 square feet on that side of the street, I call the corporate building, was about another 100,000 square feet as well. But there was 200, as I recall, about 240,000 square feet if you consider all the buildings out there. That's a large, large property under roof. And I think it would benefit folk to really take a look at it and understand what's there and the opportunities that are there. So.
We would be glad to host any board member who'd like to come visit. Just give us a call and Carolyn can set that up.
So one other comment that I have is, Roger Metcalf and I, as well as a lot of staff people, put a lot of time into thinking about this before these folks were ever contacted. And, we also entertained, for those of you that weren't around, possibly selling off about 10 to 12 acres, which included the Haines Tower and the other building attached to it. That didn't happen, of course, and I'm glad it didn't. We voted as a board, I think unanimously, to not sell it. But anything that we plan to do out there is going to have to take into consideration what we do with the entire acreage and what we do with the Haines Tower and the building there with it. So that is important to know, because if we spend $28 million redoing the classroom building, which I wholeheartedly support, we're going to have to figure out some sort of visioning process on what happens to the rest of the property. And if any conversations we have about what we're going to do with that property is going to have to take those things into consideration, and they will have to be paid for. Just my 2 cents.
I agree completely, Mr. Kern. The Haines Tower is a separate issue according to this study. A little disappointed in that, but we had kind of set the parameters based on the budget and what we were using at the time. So I look forward to having a tour of that Haines Tower myself and beginning the visioning process of what we can do with that. Because I agree, I can remember earlier in my career coming to that campus and having meetings in that tower. So I know roughly what's available, but we need to get in there and take a look at it.
Also, something to consider on this property is the county's initiative for solar power throughout AV Tech buildings and school buildings throughout the county. That campus has been slated for possible solar panels, either on the new roof that we do or in the large field, especially the area that we can't build on because it's a brownfield. So that could be something that can save us on electricity if that is what happens out there, that the electric bill to heat and cool what we currently have could be drastically reduced by these solar panels. I've also, just so you know, I've also had a conversation just in sort of thinking out loud with Commissioner Newman about what to do with the tower. And it is on his radar. And I think that the county, at least the county commission, I can almost definitely say would be in support of helping us or coming up with some sort of idea on what to do with the Haines Tower.
That's exciting to hear. Thank you. We already have a meeting scheduled with the county manager, Avril Pender, to discuss this. I think that's coming up in a couple of weeks, Carolyn?
I think next week.
Next week. So we're looking forward to moving forward, especially since this board and the county commission has already approved the roof. I think Ms. Pender wanted to see a plan moving forward, so we have that now. We definitely don't want to, we wouldn't want to, I think her concern, and I think it's a good question to ask, would the county invest in a roof and then this board recommend that we, raise the building? Well, that I don't think that's feasible at this point. So we do plan to move forward with the county and present this to them in the next week or two.
Great. Is that going to be a Zoom call or in person?
That'll be a Zoom call.
Can you send me an invitation to that?
Sure. Sure.
You send
Fantastic.
an invitation to me as well?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Those of us who were out there during the time Max was talking about realized the tremendous potential the place had. And there was hardly a day filled with cars. Teachers from all over West North Carolina spent a lot of time in that place, and as did other things that Max had going on at the time. But, it was really, at one time, a vibrant, busy, well-used, well-thought-of place. Slid down a little bit, but it has the potential to be that again.
Yes, sir, I agree with that. We want to be a part of that community, and that facility allows us to do that.
One other thing I would point out, you were just speaking of the corporate building. If you consider the high-rise building and the four-story building that tees into it, and if you consider the overlying footprint of that building, again, you have 100,000, roughly 100,000, 110,000 square feet right there. But the footprint and the roof space is much less than you have over in your research and planning building. And if you really look and go back in history and look at research planning, you will learn that there were several additions to that building made. It was not originally built to that size. It kept being added on, added on, added on. And the portion of the building that, in the research and development building, is mentioned in the report that we just received, about 30% is unoccupiable. That's a building sort of on the south side of the building, sort of right in the middle. And I should throw out an idea, but I'm not so sure it would be a good idea now after talking to architects. But if that area there could be surgically demolished and removed, and the reason I say that, if it can't be used, if it could be removed from the core of the structure itself, that takes away the cost of upkeep and renovation and a new roof. But all of that space underneath, which invariably will have to be heated and cooled to a certain extent, you'd have ongoing recovery of money there. So you're saving on the utility there. Just something I threw out. But going back to the corporate economic, or rather the corporate building on the other side of the road, I dare say if we went and had an estimate of the renovation costs there, it would be much less per square foot than we're seeing over on the research side, just simply because of the size. And you're getting the volume of square footage by going vertically. You have multiple floors under one area of roof versus the sprawled out area that you have over on the other side with the research and development.
It's Frankie Francie. I would like to make a comment. I would just like to thank the members of the board, and I would like to thank you, and I would like to thank Dirk for all of this work. As the members of the board with whom I've served for several years know, I'm very much in favor of saving these buildings, saving this site, and turning this into an educational jewel, which I think the potential is there. So I would certainly like to thank everyone involved who has worked so hard to get us to the point where we are. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Ramsey. Other questions or comments?
This is Joe. Let me just follow up on what Max was talking about with the Haines Tower. We had two different developers looking at that when we were looking at selling it, and I would not be shy about going back to them and asking them what kind of money they were looking at having to spend to turn that building back into an occupiable building. Especially Martin Lewis, I think he'd be willing to share that with us. And I can't imagine that it's anywhere near the kind of dollars that we're looking at for the R&D building. I don't know if it can be purposed for everything that's in the R&D building or if it fits. I don't know. It's a good thought. I thank you. Thanks for bringing that up, Max. It was a good thought.
You're welcome, Joe. And speaking again from the experience, the buildings were purposed for different things. The research and planning building, all the research going on, the labs and that kind of thing are over on that side of the street. Whereas the corporate building was more administrative offices, classroom, meeting rooms, and that thing. So you doing the kind of thing like the brewing and the biotech and other activities like that, I don't think that the corporate building would lend themselves very well to that. But classroom space and stuff like that, we had great classroom space. Second floor, we had huge meeting rooms. People were coming from, all venues of the community and renting that space. And it was a very vibrant space. And that could be restored very easily, I think. And again, I think the cost per square foot to renovate that would be significantly less. So I guess where I'm going is we have a need for both sides of the street. But again, money obviously is the issue.
Thank you for that.
It looks like this conversation is kind of going down a rat hole in a way, because this is all absolutely true. But the consultants we hired didn't address that. And like you said, John, yes, we are disappointed that they didn't. I think what Max was saying is that the whole thing needs to be considered unless we're going to demolish the Haines Tower, which is an option, obviously. But by going forward with just a study that's only done one building, it sounds like we're sort of hemming and hawing it a little bit and saying, well, maybe we ought to put some money into the Haines Tower, and well, let's put it into the other research building. But As it is now, what's sitting on the table is only half of what we need to do. So I'm not sure if we're able to come up with some funding to figure out what to do with the other half and go through the same process. Unfortunately, it was not, they didn't give us enough funding. The county didn't to do this all at once. That's too bad. Because it's going to delay whatever we end up doing because we don't know what to do with the other half. That's just my opinion.
When we meet with Ms. Pender, we can bring that point up.
Because I don't want it to delay what we do with the main building where all of our tenants are now. I don't want that to happen. And I'm afraid, just knowing how these processes work and dealing with a government entity, that you're going to have a delay that is going to further hurt our clients, our renters that are in the main building. So I think we should all be very aware to not let that happen.
I agree with Matt, but I'd like to circle back to something that Joe said earlier, and that was reaching out to the potential buyers that were interested in the corporate building. And if they would be willing to share what their estimates were, but not giving the impression that we're considering putting it back on the market, it would just be a gracious thing for them to do to maybe give us an idea, ballpark. And then if we had that number to carry to maybe the meeting and say, we really need to know, we need to get this other building evaluated too, so that we can make the very best decision based upon fact and not assumption. So Joe, if you could, I think if you could make that happen, that would be an appropriate thing to do.
I'd be happy to talk to Martin Lewis to see if he's willing to share that information. I think he would, but I'll be happy to. I mean, Matt's right. We're going down a rat hole, but it's better to have our information down that rat hole than not. So I'll be happy to get that and share it with the group. So.
Thanks, Joe.
We need to remember also that there's a good bit of development going on around that place right now. Judy mentioned the what we think is going to be an Amazon distribution center. It may not be, but it's going to be something big. And there, if you drive around all the perimeter of the property and just look inside, there's a lot of things going on, which I think I have been told what they all are going to be, but I don't think several other big facilities going up around the property now. So obviously it's an area of considerable growth, both home builders and as well as commercially. So it's a piece of property that we need to take full advantage of for us. And if we do that, support the greater community of Buncombe County.
Dirk, do we need action on this, or was this for information?
Just
information.
So the only action may be the fact that if in fact the cost of doing the roofs right, meaning going in, opening them up, pulling out all the stuff that needs to be pulled out and thrown away or salvaged, is going to be more expensive than the $1.7 million that we have there. I don't think we have to make a decision necessarily today, but I'm anticipating that if in fact we can let's get a new roof on there as quickly as possible with the county, then we may need to have a supplemental appropriation out of the surplus funds that we have in Article 46. I think we can deal with that later on.
Thanks, sir. Any other questions or comments before I move forward? Thank you all very much for your insights and your input. I appreciate that very, very much. As you remember, last week, I'll let you know of an incident we had at Woodfin with a live burn scenario. The good news is, the best news is, our instructor who was injured is fine. He's back at work today. The Office of Fire Marshal, OSFM, Office of State Fire Marshal, when we let them know of the incident, their initial reaction was that they had other things that they needed to look into, and it may be a while before they could come and investigate. We impressed upon them the importance of their investigation, and they are going to be here this week. They have asked our staff to begin initial interviews in support of their investigation. So we look forward to seeing those results. Again, everything was pre-approved. The plan for the burn training and the house was all taken care of. We feel like, from what we've been able to gather, that we did everything right, but we will wait on OSFM's final report and report back to you just as quickly as we find or as soon as they tell us what they discover. Again, the best news is everybody's good, everybody's fine and safe. That's in a minute. Miss Casey will be making a presentation representing the foundation board, giving you some input into our scholarship program. The foundation board met a couple of weeks ago. Very impressed with her presentation. Look forward to that coming to you in a moment. I will tell you, it seems like every month we talk about Pratt & Whitney. We did mention Amazon, and I will tell you that the same kind of customized training we will do with Pratt & Whitney. We've already reached out to Amazon when they are up and running to do training for them as well. Yes, that part of the county is getting ready to be very, very busy, and we're excited to be a part of that. For Pratt & Whitney, I think the commissioners will be putting the final approval on our contract with the architect this month. So the drawings should come shortly. We're excited about that. Our project training plan is almost complete. That should be done in the next week or two. What's interesting about that training plan, other companies are very interested in the pipeline training leading to interviews for Pratt & Whitney. So the way that will work is we'll do some employability training. We'll do some basic machine training. And then all we ask of the employer is that they promise to interview the graduates of that training. Other companies have already jumped on that. They're going to be very supportive of those programs as well to try to find the best and the brightest for themselves. So it's paying benefits beyond Pratt. One thing that we hope to be able to demonstrate next month, Kevin Kimry is looking into virtual training where he can do that not only for Pratt, but for everybody. You've seen the VR goggles that you'll put on and it looks like you're in another world. We're going to have a vendor come talk to us. We're very excited about the possibilities of doing virtual training, not only for one employer, but all employers in a lot of different scenarios to include, basic fire extinguisher training, forklift training as an example. So this will really expand our offerings, and I think it's going to be quite exciting. Out of the pandemic, our faculty with Dr. Stewart's lead is taking a good look at what they have done this past year. What do we want to expand on and improve moving forward? That to me is very exciting. Our faculty aren't just sitting there, woe is us, things are so terrible. can't wait to get back to normal. They're excited about the training that they have gone through, will go through, the way their classes are going to change. And those are good conversations. Will tell you that I have communicated with our legislators over the past month. We are moving forward with the community college agenda. There's several opportunities going around. I think the governor has recommended a $2,000 bonus for community college employees. There's two bills, one on the House, one in the Senate, for a percentage raise. The system office, with the president's and trustees' support, are really interested in supporting that percentage raise, because that's perpetuates itself year after year after year. We're the third largest community college system in the nation. Our employees are at the 40th as far as pay. People are leaving, and I'm afraid as we come out of the pandemic, they will have options. As a matter of fact, I talked to one person who left our state for a smaller role with more pay. So North Carolina is behind. We are working with our legislators to fix that. We also are talking with them about our budget moving forward. We think that we do have some good responses from the General Assembly about holding us harmless. As you well know, the community college is going to be at the forefront of our workforce development. We have to have the resources to do that coming out of this pandemic, and we're getting a lot of support, we believe, from the General Assembly on that. The last issue that is really on our radar is our IT infrastructure. We had a senator ask us in a committee meeting about the cyber attack on one of our community colleges. It was the largest community college, or the second largest community college in the system, so it made news. However, it was not the first. We've had 5 or 6 colleges be attacked with ransomware. So the General Assembly is very interested in helping support us defend against that. And obviously, we would want to support that as well. So as you're living your lives, if you happen to see any of our House representatives or senators, all we ask is that you continue to support the community college industry, raises for our employees, hold harmless for our budget, and IT infrastructure, helping us move forward. You might have seen, and I don't know how many of you are football fans, but my 40 WLOS's cable channel is sponsoring high school football. We will be sponsoring some of those. I think it's the First Down, brought to you by AB Tech. So we're excited about that exposure as well. Let's see. Had several meetings, EDC, both Buncombe and Madison County Chamber events. Did meet this morning with the CEO of Dogwood Trust, invited the presidents from the Dogwood region to come to AB Tech to talk about how Dogwood can support our industry and how we can support each other. They are very interested in collaboration, cooperation. The good news is the presidents are interested in that as well. So that was a very, very good morning spent with Dogwood representatives. Finally, I'd like to tell you that our plans are for graduation this year. It will be virtual. We're not sure that we're quite ready for an in-person graduation, putting all those people in the Coliseum. I'm not real excited about shaking all those hands just yet. So we will do it virtually. We had last week a virtual academic awards ceremony. It was very, very successful. I saw that as a dry run for our graduation, and our people are getting real excited about graduation. After all, it's what we do and why we do what we do is that celebration. So more to come from that. And as soon as we can, nail down details, we will be sharing those with you as well. Mr. Chairman, board members, that's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Gossett. Are there any questions for Dr. Gossett? All right, item number 4, board members, I encourage you to, if you have the opportunity to attend the virtual law and legislative seminar. For those of you who need ethics training, it's an easy way to get that, one shop stop. So it's not too late to sign up. So if you were thinking about that, I encourage you to do so. And then we'll turn it over to Ms. Casey.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everyone's having a great year so far, a good new year. Before I go into the presentation, I want to remind you that the scholarship application is now open. The deadline is April the 2nd. And I'm also pleased to announce a new scholarship. It's the Hero Scholarship, and it's through a partnership with UNCA. And it's for students who are dependents of essential frontline workers, and those students who are planning to enroll in the college transfer program and transferring to UNCA. That scholarship is available 2 years at AB Tech and also transfers over to UNCA as well. So if you know anyone who is interested, direct them over to our scholarship website and have them apply for scholarships. I'm going to share my screen. And so today I'm going to talk a little bit about, we're going to look at a 4-year comparison of the foundation scholarship enrollment, retention, and graduation rates from 2016 to 2020. And I want to thank Susan Eikenberry from the Office of Research and Planning for compiling this information. This information will give us an idea of what our scholarship award process looks like, what it's looked like over the past 4 years, as well as the impact that the scholarships have had on our recipients. So this first page slide looks at the scholarship amounts and the number of scholarship awards overall by year. And as you can see, we're pretty consistent when you look at the amounts awarded. We've awarded just over $500,000 over the past 4 years. And also the numbers of awards is also consistent at approximately just over 400 individual awards. And so I think that, this is a giant increase in awards since I first joined the foundation in 2008, when we awarded just over 174 individual scholarships. So we've increased quite a bit over the years, which is very good. Here you can see at the bottom here, you can see the same information with the amount in difference in the amount. You can see that there was a decrease of $25,000 from 2016 to 2017, as opposed to an increase from 2017 to 2018. And of course, a small decrease here from 2018 to 2019. But again, we're still pretty much consistent in the amounts of the awards, as well as the number of awards. This next slide shows the fall to spring retention. So for example, for the school year of 2016-17, 89% of those who were awarded a scholarship in fall of 2016 actually came back in spring of 2017. And as you can see, the numbers are in the 80% range for all 4 years. So we're pretty much consistent there. This next slide, this chart looks at fall to fall retention and graduation completion rates. So for example, students who were awarded a scholarship in 2016-17, out of those students, 41% of those students actually came back as second-year students in fall of 2017. And 43% of those students actually completed their program, graduated, hopefully went out and did great things in our community. And then 16% of those were not enrolled, did not come back the next year, and did not complete their program. And as you can see in 2017, 18, 2018, 19, the numbers are pretty consistent as far as retention and graduation. The next couple of slides, we're going to basically look at, we're going to compare the demographic comparisons, comparing scholarship recipients to AB Tech overall. And this particular chart compares the gender of scholarship recipients to that of AB Tech curriculum students overall. So for example, for the year of 2019-20, while AB Tech's curriculum population was 59% female, the scholarship recipients were 71% female, which is about a 12% difference. But as you can see, although the percentage of females for both recipients and AB Tech are much higher than the males, the numbers are pretty consistent for both the foundation and AB Tech overall for both populations for all 4 years. This next chart compares the race and ethnicity by grouping all race ethnicity categories into white and non-white, and comparing scholarship recipients to that of the AB Tech curriculum students overall. So for example, for the year of 2019, AB Tech's curriculum population was 76% white and 24% non-white, whereas the foundation scholarship recipients was also 76% white and 24% non-white. So this pattern is similar for all 4 years. It indicates that the percentage of white scholarship applicants and recipients are very similar to that of the AB Tech curriculum's population overall. The next chart compares the two races, African American and Hispanics, of that of the AB Tech students overall. So for example, for the year of 2019-2020, AB Tech's curriculum population was 5% African American, while the foundation scholarship recipients was 11% African American, which is 6% higher. And this pattern is similar, as you can see, for all 4 years. But when you look at the Hispanic population, while AB Tech overall curriculum population is 11% Hispanic, you can see that the foundation recipients were 7% Hispanic, which is a little, it's about 4% lower. And so based on the research, this pattern is varied over the past 4 years with, as you can see, the 2017, 2018, and 2019 and 20 showing the largest gaps, which are 3 to 4% between the foundation recipients and the students overall for Hispanics. This next slide compares the 4 race ethnicity categories of recipients to that of the AB Tech students overall. And as you can see, you have American Indian, you have Asian Pacific Islanders, multiple races, and those who have identified as other. And these numbers and percentages are very, very small for both AB Tech and for the foundation. So this next chart compares the percentage of recipients who were veterans. And as you can see, the percentages range from 3% to 1%. It's a very small percentage there. And then this next slide is very interesting because this gives us another glimpse of who our recipients are, of our recipient population. This chart shows the distribution of scholarships by time since high school graduation, and it's grouped into 5-year increments. And so the time is calculated from the year that they actually received the foundation scholarship. So as you can see here, 42% of the scholarship recipients in the between 2016 and 2020 actually graduated from high school within the prior 5 years. And 18% graduated in the prior 6 to 10 years. And then here we have 15% graduated in the 11 to 15 years. So for most of the 75%, those 75% who actually graduated within the 15 years, those could range from those enrolling straight out of high school to those adults who may have gone into the workforce straight out of high school and at an early age, or now attending college and pursuing careers for the first time, whereas the other 25% could be those displaced workers coming back to pursue a different career, or it could possibly represent those who are veterans. So this information gives us basically an indirect look at our recipient population. And in doing so, we realize that although our students face great challenges, they are still pushing through and completing their programs and pursuing their dreams. And whether it's improving our fundraising efforts or looking at those areas of greatest need, we think that this information will allow the foundation to look at bigger and better ways of impacting not only our students, but also the college. And so we are also just very grateful to our donors as well for continuing to support our students. So that's it.
Thank you, Veronica. As you can tell, she does a great job. We're real proud of her and the work that she does for and with our students. One thing that I really want you to go away from this meeting understanding, when we talked about retention rates, our scholarship recipients come back to us at a much higher rate than the rest of the student population. That means your donations and your support for our students is vital for them to get from where they are to where they want to be. So on behalf of Amanda and Veronica and everybody who works with the foundation, if you have an opportunity to give to the scholarship fund, please do so. If you've already done it, please do so again. Thank you very much, Veronica. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving to item number 6, the handouts were included in our board packet. I hope everybody has had a chance to look at those. If anybody has any questions about anything in the handouts, now would be the time to bring it up. Not, are there any other comments or before we adjourn from any board members? I'd like to thank you for continuing to support AV Tech, and our next board meeting would be April the 5th at 3 p.m. It will be at the Brummett Center, and we will formally swear in Mr. King. And hope everybody has a good week. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Everyone.
Good meeting.
Bye.
You all right?
Bye.
Bye.